everyone, welcome back to the next chapter. Sherry here. Tonight we are going to make a delicious recipe. This is my mother's coconut cream pie. I remember as a little girl her making this and watching her make it in her kitchen. So tonight I'm going to share her recipe with you, and I hope you will enjoy it as much as I have over the years. It was really exciting to make it the first time, and actually I have shown one of my sons how to make it, so it'll be passed on. He loves to cook, and he asked me not too long ago, he was in from college at Christmas, and he said, "Mom, will you show me how to make Granny's," we call her Granny, Granny's coconut cream pie? I said, absolutely. So it's been passed down to another generation. So I hope you will enjoy it. And as always, if you enjoy this video and others that I have posted, if you will subscribe and like the video and also hit the notification bell, that way you will always get notifications when a new video is posted, which is about once a week at this point. So before I get started, I'd like to ask you, if you would, please put in the comments, what is your favorite pie? This just happens to be mine, coconut cream. But what is your pie? Please comment with your favorite pie. Let's get started. So I have mixed together, I put in here 2/3 cup of sugar and 1/3 cup of all-purpose flour and just a pinch of salt. You mix that together. And the next thing you're going to do is take 3 eggs, and you're going to separate those. And I typically use an egg separator just so I don't get too much of the egg yolk in, because you don't want that to happen. Let me just get this over where you guys can see it. So you want to be sure that you don't get any of the yolk in with your whites, because you're going to need these whites a little bit later. Do you guys, are you good enough that you can do this by hand? Most of the time I am, but when I'm doing pies, I don't trust myself, so I usually pull out the old egg separator, because you really can mess up your whites if you get any yolk in there when you're making the meringue for your pie, which we will do a little bit later. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and put this 3rd egg yolk in here. And I'm going to take my whites and just set them off to the side for a little bit later. All right. Now the best thing to mix this with at this point is a whisk. So I am mixing up the yolks in with the flour and sugar mixture and salt. And at this point you are going to gradually add milk. And I use half and half, you know, why not make this as unhealthy as possible? Plus the extra cream just, it adds extra flavor. It's wonderful. So you're going to add a little bit of half and half, or you prefer, you can use milk. Milk is fine. That's totally your choice. All right. Once you get it smooth, you're going to add a little bit more. You don't want to add your milk or your half and half too quickly, because you will have lots and lots of lumps if you do that. That's why you want to gradually add the milk, because the sugar and flour mixture will not dissolve completely if you just dump your milk in. Okay, add a little bit more. And this is, again, 2 cups of either milk or half and half. I will say I have made this before with skim milk, and it's just not the same. So you can certainly use skim milk, but I would recommend that you at least use 2% milk. I would not try baking with oat milk, almond milk, any of those. Of course, half and half, you're going to have a lot more cream. Heavy whipping cream, you're going to have a cream only. I've never tried that. I don't know if that would work. So we're about to the end of our 2 cups of milk here. Okay, and as you can see, we have a nice smooth pot of base. Okay, so I usually start cooking this on medium to high, somewhere in the midst of that. And you really have to watch this and stir it continually, because if you don't, it's going to stick and burn, and you do not want to burn this. So this usually cooks about 10 minutes or so, and I will explain what you're looking for and how you'll know it's finished. So while this is cooking, I want to talk a little bit about food and the importance of food in the Appalachian region, which is where I grew up. So I am from a small community in Kentucky, and I remember as far back as 2 to 3 years old, food played a very important role in my family and in all the families that I knew in this area. Events were centered around food. Holidays were centered around food. Food is actually the love language of the mountain people and the people of Appalachia. So at the time, years ago, it was primarily women that were the homemakers and the cooks of the family. They took great pride in the food that they made for their families. Of course, today, we're seeing more and more men that are becoming the cooks of the family and becoming professional chefs. But food played a primary role in celebrations and the love language of the family. It was very common for women of the community in their churches, in their community gatherings, to share recipes with one another. As a matter of fact, I remember, and I have several of these books, many times they would, as a fundraiser, women's groups, sometimes church groups, would create a community recipe book. And this is one of the best cookbooks that I remember ever using. Some of my favorite recipes have come from those community cookbooks. Another thing that was very common for the Appalachian region is socializing. It was not uncommon at all for families to gather after church on Sunday evening, sing, play music, share stories, and of course, food was always a huge part of that. I remember as a child, my father would set up volleyball, he would set up badminton in the backyard for us kids to play. Sometimes the adults joined us, but primarily it was for the teenagers, the kids. That was the summer recreation. In the winter, we lived on top of a fairly large hill, so we had lots and lots of community folks come over for sledding, as we called it, sleigh riding, and have hot chocolate, coffee. Of course, there was always food, and those are some of the best memories. The neighbors would come out, the church folks would come out, and as I mentioned earlier, I remember just so many times that people would bring their instruments over. We had a piano, and I played piano, still do, and we would play music and sing old gospel hymns for hours. And it was just so much fun. Another thing that was a tradition for this part of the country is making homemade candy at Christmas. One of my fondest memories is making what we called pool candy. I think it's known as cream candy. So the reason it's called pool candy is once it is made, you have to gather it into strips and actually pull it. So you have to pull it until it creams. And it will go from being a sticky, taffy substance to being a hard cream candy. And it happens very fast. So I remember one time we were making this. We probably had 20-25 people at our home. And it was a really cold winter night. Snow was blowing. It was probably, I don't know, 25 degrees or so, maybe colder. And my father had a batch of this candy in his hand. He was pulling it. So he was getting hot. And he said, I'm going to go outside and pull for a while, because this candy is usually pretty hot when you hold it, and it gets you have to work and you get hot while you're pulling it. And my mother said, Billy, I don't think that's a good idea, because if you go outside, it's going to turn to sugar. And he said, oh, that's ridiculous. It's not going to turn to sugar. So he goes out, and he is out there probably 5 minutes, not very long. And all of a sudden he comes back in, and he literally has a handful of sugar. It totally turned to sugar. So we got a good laugh out of that. And we remember the story of the time Billy took the pool candy outside and it turned to sugar. So true story, true story. So getting back to the recipe here, what you're going to see is as you're cooking this, and as I said, you need to continually stir it, it's going to get thicker. You're going to actually feel it getting thicker. And you need to keep the heat up to between high and medium high. And it's also going to start to boil. But the reason that you have to stir it is that it will stick and burn if you're not stirring it. So because of the high sugar content, you must stir it. So I would love to know, what family traditions or community traditions do you remember? What is something that from your childhood, or even that's still part of your life, that is part of your family, your community, that represents the area in which you're from? Please put that in the comment. So being from a small town, a small community, another thing that was very common is we had what's called watch night services. Now, watch night services were something that we did on New Year's Eve. And this was a church function. And basically what would happen is you would have lots and lots of singing, some preaching, but it was a way to welcome in the new year. And so that was a real common thing. Holidays were highly celebrated in our church. Easter, Christmas, even Halloween, believe it or not. We had Halloween parties, had great Halloween parties at our church. Let me show you what's happening with this pie. So it's starting, as you can see, it's starting to thicken up. There we go. Once it does that, you want to lower the heat ever so slightly. And you want to keep cooking it. And I'm going to show you, you're going to see some bubbles here in just a second. Okay, there's the bubbles. So it's ever so slightly boiling, not a hard boil at all. Please continue to stir because you're going to burn it if you don't. And you're going to keep cooking this for at least, I would say, another 6 to 7 minutes. The longer you cook it, the thicker it's going to get. And you can see it's starting to really thicken up. And as I'm stirring it, I can really feel it thicken up. And you can see it's really starting to boil now. Again, I'm going to adjust my temperature just slightly, lower it. And I think we're almost done. And I'm going to show you what consistency you want to go for in this. As you can see, it's still not completely thick, but if you get it too thick, it's going to be, when it cools, it's going to be too thick. So you don't want that to happen. Okay, give it another minute. And I think we'll be ready to go. So again, share with me your traditions. And I am going to look for a clip. My father, who has since passed, was in a men's gospel bluegrass group known as the Greyhawk Boys. Greyhawk is the name of the community where I grew up. And it was a traditional bluegrass gospel group. And I am going to try to find a clip of their music and play that for you. They were a wonderful group. I miss his voice. If I find the clip, his voice is the high male tenor voice that you hear. Had a beautiful voice. And I miss his voice so much. And I think I mentioned in another video that I played piano when I was younger for a gospel group. Well, I played for, my parents were in a gospel group, and their best friends, the four of them, were in a quartet, and I played piano, and that was while I was in high school. Okay, I think we are close to being done. Oh yeah, we are good. Okay, so I'm going to turn this down, turn it off, move it over. Now, let's move my camera here. The next thing you're going to do is put in a half a stick of butter. And I find that if I chop up the butter into little chunks, that it melts much quicker. So that's what I've done. That is a half a stick. I just mix that up. And you're also going to put in a teaspoon of coconut extract. You can use vanilla extract, but I recommend to have a more coconut taste, stronger coconut taste, that you use the coconut extract. And that is 1 teaspoon. And the last thing you're going to put in here is 1 cup of coconut. And I usually get the sweetened coconut flakes. And you can get those at Kroger, Walmart, any of those types of stores. And just here's what the bag looks like, the kind I got. You're going to mix this really well. Oh, it smells so good. All right. And I'm going to get my pie shell. And I'm going to pour my pie filling. You've got your pie shell filled with your filling. You are ready to make the meringue. And so you're going to take those egg whites that you had when you separated the eggs. And the secret to making meringue is that you want to beat your egg whites before you add your sugar. If not, it will not turn out correctly. And you want to beat these on a fairly high speed. Start out on medium. And then moving on up. And as you can see, the egg whites are getting whiter and stiffer, which is what you want. Usually I will take a spatula sometime in the midst of this and just scrape down the sides. And turn it back on. What we want here. And let's just see what we have. Let's see how thick. And what you can do is take your spatula and just put it in there and see if you get a lift. And it's looking like we're close. Okay, now another secret to making good meringue is you add half a cup of sugar. Once you reach stiff peaks in your egg whites, and you gradually add the sugar. You do not add it all at once. If you add it all at once, your meringue is going to be grainy. So that's why that you want to add it gradually. You're going to have a much smoother meringue if you add it gradually. And I think that we have some perfect meringue. Let's just take a taste. Delicious. So as you can see, it's nice and thick, very thick, which is what you want. Okay. All right, now we are ready to add the meringue. And everybody does the meringue differently. I typically put it all out at once. And there's kind of an art to designing meringue. Really, there's no right way or wrong way. You just do it the best way you can and the way that you like to do it. So, like I said, kind of an art form. Okay, so you spread your meringue first. This is how I do it. And I usually make sure that I'm covering the edges of the pie where the pie and the crust comes together. Because as the pie bakes, it's going to separate and get smaller. The meringue will. It will shrink. So you want to spread it out as much as possible. And you don't want one big glob in the center. So I kind of spread it evenly on top of the pie. Okay. Now, here comes the fun part. So once I've got this smooth, somewhat smooth level, I take my little device here and I just do this number. And it makes little peaks. And these actually are really cute when they bake. But you don't have to do this. You can do it however you want to do it. It's your pie. Okay, so there we go. All right. So you bake the pie at 400 degrees and it typically takes about 5 minutes. The main thing you want to do is you want to brown the meringue. You have to watch this very closely because it browns rather quickly. So even though you might be timing it, I usually don't time it because when it browns very fast. So you just have to keep an eye on it. So, and I'll show you what the end result looks like.
And here we have a beautiful coconut cream pie.
I hope you've enjoyed tonight as much as I have. I have really enjoyed sharing my mother's pie recipe with you. Also stories about traditions in my community, my church, and my family over the years. And I am really looking forward to hearing some of yours as well. Please put those in the comments. And also, don't forget to put your favorite pie flavor in the comments. Just would like to know what different flavors are out there, favorites. And I appreciate you guys more than I can ever tell you. The fact that you tune in and watch my videos means so much. Thank you so, so much for that. And also, if you are enjoying my channel, please, if you would, just subscribe and hit the like button. That will help to grow my channel. And also hit the notification bell so you'll get notifications when I post a new video. And I will be doing that at least once a week for now, so maybe more in the future. Well, I hope all of you have a wonderful week and upcoming weekend, and I will see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.